So what drives an entrepreneur's personal brand? We have on the stage Devin Johnson and E-Rock Christopher. We're going to have people sit down if we can, if you guys want to fill in over here. E-Rock's from entrepreneur.com, and Devin is from BRANDefenders. So here we go. Ready to go? I'll leave it to you guys.
Awesome. Want to say a quick shout out to Grit Daily House for having us here today, and Jordan French for putting together another amazing event here at South by Southwest. Yes, sir. But shine the light here on Devin. So my name's E-Rock Christopher. I am the founder and CEO of this famous media group. And one of the things that I realized early on in my career was the value of media, and got invited to contribute to entrepreneur.com as an entity. And so we're here with Devin from BRANDefenders. And I'm curious to know, like, here we are in the world of digital. We're talking about personal branding. What was I guess I like to call it your Marvel Avengers origin stories of how you got into this business model?
Great question, E-Rock. And again, Grit Daily, thanks for having us out. E-Rock, grateful to be on stage with you. So my branding and entrepreneurial journey started 25 years ago this year. It's when I started my first business, right? Grew up one of three boys in a household where a father, 45, 46-year county sheriff said, you want something, you're going to work for it. And really it started when I was 13 and really wanted some Jordans, like every other 13-year-old. Now here we are 25 years later. It's what my 13-year-old wants now. And he gave this inspirational comment, and he didn't mean it derogatorily, but he said, Devin, my job is to cover your ass, not decorate it. You're old enough that if you want some Jordans, go earn them. Go build something. Go make some extra money. And so for me, I challenged myself early. What could I do in my capacity, right, with the limited time and school and everything else that I could do to earn some signed money? Now here we are, fast forward dozens of companies later. And I find myself in digital marketing having been successful in some tech companies, had some good exits, have some good positions in some tech companies still, some that are serving some of the biggest tech manufacturers in the world, some that are based here in Austin. And as I started in 2017 looking for the next venture that I wanted to get involved in, a VC out of Utah started looking at some companies on the market and found a reputation company out of Florida. Well, long story short, that deal fell apart. So them looking to bring me on to try to grow something into something a little bit bigger than it was, fell apart. So after connecting with that founder, we did something private between the two of us. We started growing that organization. We grew it across the nation. It's bloomed into several other agencies. And so back to your original question, E-Rock, I didn't get into becoming an entrepreneur because I wanted to do digital marketing. But what I found is once you've built a set of skills that are repeatable, that you can deploy and add value to any type of organization, any type of vertical, you really have a unique opportunity to help and train those other entrepreneurs who are coming into the market. And we find ourselves here in 2023, especially having just kind of gone through the last 2 years of COVID, where if you weren't decentralized, you didn't use technology as a platform to really build and grow your business, you face some challenges to decentralize your workforce to work from home. And now that we're somewhat on the back side of that, where people are coming back back into their offices, a lot of organizations are taking online digital marketing a lot more serious, and it's time to start building their brands better than they were before.
So I remember being a kid and wanting the blue Nikes back in the day, and it was like one of the things that I wanted to have. And so it leads me into the Nike brand, because my assumption is like 20 years ago, you'd say Nike and no one who necessarily like knew who Phil was, right? So in today's like society and with talking about personal brand, you have like the corporate brand, you have the personal brand. What is your what do you do with your clients as far as like how critical is it for an executive to build a personal brand to grow the corporate brand and vice versa? And how do you recommend people balance that out?
Yeah, great question, E-Rock. I think it comes down to the size of the organization, and it depends on what the maturity of their product and process and really the brand ethos is. If you have an organization that's fairly mid-level, enterprise level, the personal leadership brand or the individual's brand may be less important than when you're in startup mode. But when we're starting our new startup, our new venture, one of the first things that we do is we have this idea, right? We have this prompting that I should start a business. And it could be forced on us. It could be inspirational. It could just be that we landed in a situation that now's the best time to start my business. But what happens is most entrepreneurs lead to product. They lead with product. They say, I'm going to build this. It's going to be the greatest this, or this out on the market. Then they figure out a process. And then they say, I'm going to need some people. Once they have those people, they think that the product is inspirational enough that those people are going to want to stay. They're going to want to make it their baby as well. And what they fail to do is inspire those people that they're bringing on. They fail to inspire and build a purpose and have passion in what it is that they're doing, which is really what attracts this grassroots movement, right, that everybody talks about. It's what helps you garner a wider variety of customers to come into your business and say, this is a product that I can get behind, less about the product and more about the why behind the product. And there's several brands that we can think of, right? When we think of Tesla launching, what do we think of? Do we think of the electric car? Sure. That's not what was led as the initial vision, right? The initial vision was we have a climate topic that we're trying to address. It may or may not be the solve-all for fossil fuels. In fact, we've heard him come out saying maybe it's not. But what he is doing is saying, here's something I can do that's within my power, within my area of influence, and I'm going to do it better than anybody else because of a purpose, because I have passion. I'm not just going to come in and say, this is why you should buy my car. It's the coolest car in the world. And when you look at new startups, a lot of new startups that are out there, you look at Cotopaxi, right? Cotopaxi is a wonderful brand. Utah brand, by the way, shout out to Utah brands. So Cotopaxi is one of those organizations where there's a purpose behind the brand. There's a movement, and they build cool product, right? But we buy into that and we stay committed to something because of that why. And so back to your original point, it is very, very valuable to have a personal brand, especially when you're in startup mode. It's going to be difficult to sustain a new venture if you really don't have the why behind the how and the what. So that's also going to bleed over into the corporate brand.
So hope you don't mind. I'm going to put you on the spot. And a quick shout out to our good friends at HubSpot for Startups who are out serving free mac and cheese out in the front. But can you share with the audience a story that you believe epitomizes the ethos of BRANDefenders and something that you know that was helpful for their purpose and passion and an outcome?
I mean, like a client success story?
Yes.
Yeah, so we worked with one organization that was fairly large, doing near $1 billion a year in revenue. Their founder originally reached out to us looking for the typical onboarding requirement of a reputation management company, and that is that there's an online fire. They wanted to put out the fire. But when I build a business, I don't like being a project-based, service-based business. It makes it difficult for our team to manage, and so we always look for how we can add a more broad set of services to this organization. And so the initial touch, the initial kind of outreach from this client was very focused on clean something up negative on Google. And I hate that about the reputation management industry, right? Because a lot of it becomes fake, becomes inflated, and we like to be authentic. And so our process is a little bit different in that when we bring somebody on, we walk them through 3 different departments inside of our agency house. So the first one is the define step, right? We want to define the message, and part of the defining the message is challenging the message. It goes back to just brand coaching in general or just business coaching, and that is, tell me what your ethos is. What's your why? Why do you inherently have this right to exist in your mind? And then we're going to help define out what that message could look like online, and then put you into the second phase of our agency, and that is the defend phase, which is really looking at it a couple different ways. It's what's online that's negative that needs to be cleaned up. It's how do we clean it up ethically so that we can say if something needs to be reshaped. There's always those instances in kind of the growth of an enterprise where you may have a lawsuit in your past. You may have somebody come online and slander your brand and have some defamation on there that you'd like to clean up, or a review score that you'd like to be able to kind of influence a little bit better than simply ignoring it, hoping it goes away. And so as our defend team looked at this really makeup company, we started finding that while there weren't that many issues online that needed cleanup, there were a lot of issues that needed to be represented. We needed to build the moat, if you will, and create some immunity around that brand online. How do we do that? It's storytelling. That's the last phase of our organization, and that's the development part of BRANDefenders. And so when you have somebody kind of in your wheelhouse, an extension of your marketing team, if you will, who understands storytelling, what we can do is say, based on what you defined, keywords that you're going after, specific moats that need to be built because of X, Y, Z that you'd like to reshape in the online narrative, we're going to suggest this very tailored white glove approach and be an extension of your team based on resources that you need. So in their case, what happened was they were hopeful to get into other markets. They were hopeful to launch and grow past some things in their past that they really wish they hadn't maybe fragmented their focus on. And that client was originally a 6-month client. They stayed with us 38 months. The company then sold, and they left us a raving review and started using their in-house team. So
you're eating your own dog food.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about partnering with the VC from the beginning, right? And a lot of startups are out there and want to raise capital. They're trying to be able to scale. How important is it with what you do in empowering the companies that you work with either attracting VCs, maintaining the relationships, and investor relations?
Boy, what a great question, Eron. Okay, so let's dive back to partnering with a VC up front.
Yeah, because I'm sure everybody wants to know how you did that, as opposed to the VC saying we want to own you.
Well, so I guess I kind of owned the VC in the end. So this VC that originally...
You're on record.
Yeah, so I'm on record here. So we won't name names, but this venture firm, if you're looking for venture-backed funding, be wise and do your homework. Don't stay so stay laser focused on why you're getting funding, but spend a little time doing some due diligence on the people that promise they're bringing you the funding. It's important to know who you are partnering with the same way we date and court before we marry, right? So don't just hop in bed with the first VC that waves a pretty little check, because I promise there's strings attached. And so we were very careful with that, right? I started my career in tech back in really the early 2000s, late 90s, and built 2 industry-changing tech companies with a couple great partners that I have. Some of those have gone on to sell. Some have 20+ million customers around the world. Most of them are not venture-backed, but we tended to bootstrap those organizations for a reason. So back to your question, Erod. When it comes to partnering with a VC, do your homework and connect with some of the other companies that they've already funded without them knowing. Look at the portfolio on their website and go reach out to them and say, how is it working with XYZ Capital? How is it working with this private equity fund or this venture group or this angel investor? Because I promise it's going to pay off in droves when you start to understand exactly what the gotchas were, the experience was. And just like anything else, right? If you know somebody who's a friend of someone you're dating, you're probably going to do a little research on that person. And that's not offensive, right? You would hope that that entrepreneur would be that thorough before just jumping into the next shiny object that distracts them. And so for us, because we're very laser focused, we're very goal oriented, any venture-backed organization that we looked at or that we engaged with needed to have that same mindset and appreciation for the companies we were building. We did not want somebody coming in saying, look, this is the latest and greatest market. We would like you to redirect your business here, because we were very thorough in already figuring that out analytically and then tapping into it from a proof of concept standpoint. So it wasn't until earlier this year that we really had some partners privately come in who have 30+ years in private, and they came in because of what we were doing that made it attractive. So we really haven't raised any capital on BRANDefenders. We partner with them, on the other hand, to provide value insulating their portfolio companies, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. So as we begin to wrap up, there's a lot of people that are out there wanting to be able to build a personal brand, whether it's because they're a solo creator and they want to grow their personal brand, that's their business model, kind of influencer model, all the way to the, the Fortune 500 executives that are out there like, hey, I want to increase my brand because of advisory deals and things of that nature. So over the next 5 years, what do you predict or what do you recommend that people do to kind of follow the Wayne Gretzky model of, hey, where's the puck going to be? Like, what can people start planning or kind of anticipating for over the next 5 years when it comes to building a personal brand?
Yeah, so we're all familiar with content creation, right? There's a lot of different content. You can create videos, you can create social posts, you can create press releases, blogs, etc. Those platforms are there, and they're going to be there a while. When we look at the social media platforms that we can post content on, they're well established. For the most part, they're free unless we want to sponsor them. What you have right now is this inflection point where content creators have to realize you need to create meaningful, ethical, authentic content. People are so worried about offending other people. People are so worried about not getting the likes, not getting the follows, not getting the shares, that they become scared to just share content in general. What you have to do is take the leap, take a subject that you're passionate about so that people feel that passion, and then just be real. People want someone they can relate to. They don't want to look at someone and say, that person is so not like me that I'm going to follow their channel. The reason people follow influencer channels is because they found they can relate to someone. And so share a message that's passionate to you. I promise there's a pool of people that are going to follow it. And if it's a message about something relating to your brand, you will start the process of building stepstones towards awareness of the brand by introducing them to you, your personal brand, your name. Because E-Rock, that is your brand. Even if you represent a different organization, which is another way you influence a brand, E-Rock or Devin Johnson, that's my brand. And so I have to be relatable. I have to stay within my sphere of knowledge or influence. And if I go outside of that and I start becoming fake because I want more likes and shares, you're going to lose followers, right? You're going to lose awareness. And so the next 5 years, you're going to see this pendulum swing towards authenticity and relatability.
Awesome. And then what would be your recommendation be on how to really like narrow that like authenticity? Because again, you talked about people like again, I'm big into neuroscience, right? Like what influences people to make a decision? And one of the biggest factors of people like you talked about is I'm worried that I'm going to make a mistake, right? And I'm going to look bad. So how do you help encourage people to overcome that with the clients that you work with so that, again, that they can feel confident and walk forward into that messaging?
You know, it comes back to the reason we're here, in my mind. We're here to grow, to learn, to be tested, to become caring, and to help other people. So when you're creating content, and I don't care if it's content about why you should like these shoes over another pair of shoes or why you should like this type of food over this type of food, pick your specialty. It really can be anything. Be relatable, be kind and sincere, because there's too much criticism, there's too much hate, there's too much diversity. And if we can include more people, if we can be more loving and caring to other people, and people feel that in our message, they won't care what the message is about, subject matter wise. We just need to be more about purpose and passion and reasoning than we do about product and process. It's not about the how and the what. It's about the why. And if people feel that why coming out of our message, they're going to resonate in some way, shape, or form. And if they don't, somebody else will. And eventually you'll continue to build the brand that really you're seeking to build.
Well said. So on that note, let's give it up for Devin. Thank you very much for sharing all this wisdom with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to turn it back over to none other than Mr. John Biggs.
Howdy, guys.